Okay, there's one person looking.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, my name is Amber Ray, and I'm here to give an informative speech about severe depression. My goal of this speech is to inform my audience what severe depression is, what causes it, and how do you cope with it. Now, I want my audience to think back as far as you can. You have met somebody in your life that has committed suicide. Now, the concept of suicide is something that is brought up in conversation with very solemn faces and very sad tones. And sometimes it can be hard to imagine why your parent, friend, sibling, coworker, classmate could do that to themselves. Well, I was that person that tried to do that to themselves. I was the person who would pop up in conversation with those same sad tones and solemn faces. But in my research and trying to improve my own mental health, I've discovered what my reasoning is. And while it may vary from person to person, today I want to talk about severe depression. Now, to better understand this concept, we're going to talk about three things: what it is, what causes it, and how do you cope with it if you do have it. Now, first we're going to start with what severe depression is. Severe depression is a psychiatric mental illness that affects how the person thinks, feels, and acts, such as with daily activities, such as how they eat, sleep, and go to work. Now we're going to move on to what it is commonly confused with. Depression is commonly confused with feelings of grief, loss, pain, whatever negative emotion you may feel, but that's not the case. That is the cause of depression, not what depression immediately is. Now, here are some examples. Grief, for instance, comes in waves. It's a very painful feeling and a mixture of feelings of sadness, loss, and sometimes happy feelings. Compare when you think about the person that you lost. But depression is a loss of mood and pleasure. It is more of a lack of feeling than actual feeling. And when you're in grief, your sense of self is not usually altered. You still have confidence and maybe your self-worth is still the same, but with depression, that's not the case. Depression is a loss of self-worth. It is self-loathing, self-hatred. That's the common theme when it comes to depression. Now, what I'm going to go over next is what the symptoms of depression usually are. Now, they usually are very specific set. Usually people who have depression know what it is right off the bat. Now, it usually comes with feelings of sadness, hopelessness, loneliness. You have mood swings over the littlest things. You have a lack of motivation over the littlest things. You have increased or decreased appetite. You sleep too much or way too little. And most importantly, you have thoughts of suicide and death. Now we know what it is, what it isn't, and what the symptoms are. Now we're going to go into what causes it. Now, the causes can vary from person to person because severe depression is an illness ultimately. We don't know what the cause is, but it does vary. Here are some of them, such as abuse, physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. There is also changes in the brain, such as a hormonal imbalance inside of your mind. There is conflict between your family or your friends can cause severe depression. There's also sadness and grief, like I stated earlier. It can cause depression. And then possibly one of the biggest ones is genetics. It can be genetically passed down from your mother or father like any other hereditary disease, such as heart disease or high blood pressure. But regardless of the reasons, whether it be multiple or just a singular reason, it is a very important disorder that needs to be taken not as lightly as it is. With all of this in mind, some of you might have realized that you have depression through the course of my presentation. Some of you might have already known that you had it before I even said anything, but don't know how to go about it. So I'm going to go over some ways that you can actually cope with it. Being a person, I'm the best person to come to with this sort of thing. Here are some tips. You need to reach out, stay connected. Talk to a friend, talk to somebody you love and care about. Even taking care of a pet can help you. Do things that make you happy. or used to make you happy. You should never force yourself to do something that you don't want to do, but sometimes just a little bit of a push can help your health dramatically. Support your health. Make sure you get plenty of sleep, drink plenty of water, make sure you get something to eat, and keep mindful of your stress. Challenge your negative feelings, something that I do pretty often. Challenge your negative feelings with love and logic instead of the pain that's going on inside of your head. Get professional help. That's the most important one. Make sure you're seeking help from somebody who can actually help you. Get medication, seek therapy. So in conclusion, depression is a journey. It's not fun for everybody. It is incredibly overwhelming and hard to get through. But if you just try, you can do it. I hope with the things that I showed you, what it is, what it isn't, what the symptoms are, what causes it, and how do you overcome it, that you have learned to maintain, cope, and be mindful of those that do have depression if you do not have it yourself. Thank you for listening to my speech.